8:33 this morning, reaction continues to pour in after President Trump signed his big, beautiful bill into law. Trump signed that massive budget and tax bill on the 4th of July after the House narrowly approved the bill. One of the latest responses comes from Maryland Representative Mcclain Delaney, who calls the package devastating for working families, pointing to what she says are historic cuts to Medicaid, SNAP, and the child tax credit. She joins us this morning live to talk about it. Good morning. It's good to see you. We appreciate you being with us.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. You know, this big bill is big, but it definitely is not beautiful. And the hardest part for me is that with these Medicaid cuts, one in seven families in my district depend on Medicaid, and a lot of them are children. And I think that it's a really hard thing, particularly as we see all these cuts and the tsunami of cuts that are coming after rural America. And the same with SNAP. It's one in nine kids are on SNAP funding. And when we look at taking $17 million in healthcare funding and up to $3 million being thrown off of SNAP funding, it's going to be a very difficult thing for some of the state budgets to make up the gapfall. And you were just talking earlier about Camp Mystic and some of these girls that are missing. It's also layering on all of, the cuts to NOAA and to many of the agencies within my district, NIST, NIH, National Institute on Cancer, Fort Detrick. And so we also have all of these tsunami of layoffs, and many of those people the rifts are going to impact a lot of the communities in addition to these cuts.
Yeah, you've called this package devastating. You mentioned the impact on SNAP. You said 32,000 people in your district would potentially lose coverage under Medicaid over the next decade. Talk about your reaction to that.
Well, I think the hard part with Medicaid is that so many people don't realize that Medicaid underpins a lot of our healthcare system. I think 50% of women in this country deliver on Medicaid, and many of the people in our nursing homes, up to 70% in our district, are on Medicaid like funding. So it's a very difficult time for our state budgets and for people who don't know how it's going to impact them. The last thing I have to say is on our rural hospitals. A lot of this funding, for instance, the Hagerstown Family Healthcare Center, they are estimating like 60% of their patients are on Medicaid. And so when you start looking at rural hospitals having access to both resources and doctors, there's definitely going to be a pinch in terms of availability of services. And then that's only going to drive them to more costly emergency rooms in more urban settings.
Yeah, we know this is a massive bill, so much to digest. What are some of the other biggest concerns that you have right now?
Well, I think with this bill, it's a lot of, as I said, the tsunami, how it layers on. That's not Medicaid and SNAP, but also how it's going to impact the state budgets. It's going to be a difficult thing, and I think a lot of these, I'm not sure if Wes Moore has said anything publicly, but I think a lot of these states are going to have to come back and reconvene and relook at their state budgets. And then I have to say, there's just a lot of fiscal hypocrisy I find on the Republican side of the aisle. They talk a lot about our fiscal trajectory. We just added $4 trillion to our deficit and raised the debt ceiling by $5 trillion. And, we do have to deal with our deficit. It's going to impact our bonds going sideways, our interest rates, our U.S. competitiveness, our national security. So this is something we have to deal with, but we can't tax our way or cut our way out of it. What we've got to have is thoughtful ways of increasing revenue while also figuring out ways to be more efficient and effective and coming together. But the way in which we did this with, it was a rush through process. Many of the legislators proclaimed they didn't know everything that is in it. And then to have this kind of impact on our deficit when they say they want to really correct it, I think it's a travesty in multiple ways. So we're going to have people sicker. We're going to have more hungry children. We're going to have less U.S. innovation and competitiveness, given the fact of our fiscal trajectory. And unfortunately, I'm not quite sure why we're doing it, because it's just to extend a tax cut, for many people who are in our top echelons, the billionaires they keep talking about. But this is something that did not have to be done in this way. It did not have to be rushed through. And we need to really come thoughtfully together because there's an impact. You know, as I watched the president gavel in with his the speaker's gavel and say, "America's winning, America's winning, America's winning," and I said, "Is America winning when millions of kids could go hungry? Is America winning when our seniors are losing their health care? You know, is America winning when we don't have enough resources to really protect the health and well-being of our
Yeah. And
citizens?"
I
And
want to ask
say
you.
no.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. I want to ask you too, because we've only got about 30 seconds left. But when you talk about those impacts, right? I mean, what message do you have right now for your constituents? What are some of the next steps for some of the most vulnerable Maryland residents right now?
Excellent question. You know, I'm trying to get ahead of it by speaking with nonprofits, with corporations, different stakeholders, and, you know, really tell them about the things that are coming and how we can best prepare and leverage on a local level many of the different stakeholders to get in front of these cuts and to figure out exactly their true impact. I do think that there will be some reanalysis on the state and local levels. And then I'm just going to have to keep fighting on the federal level to kind of claw back some of these funds. And, you know, I hope, you know, we keep talking about Project 2026, but I do think putting some bumpers and safeguards on this administration and hopefully flipping the House so that we can ensure that we make sure, you know, we focus on affordability and helping make people's lives better.
All right, Congresswoman April Mcclain Delaney, we appreciate your time and your insight on this
Thank you
important
so
issue.
much. God bless you. Thanks so much.